About the book. The notion of whether we are on the brink of the end times and if the Bible holds clues about what lies ahead, particularly in relation to the Israel and Palestine conflict in the Gaza Strip, is a truly intricate and fiercely debated subject. Countless religious interpretations and beliefs revolve around the topic of the end times, each offering unique perspectives and theories. For some, the ongoing strife in the Middle East, exemplified by the conflict between Israel and Palestine, aligns perfectly with biblical prophecies, serving as a forewarning that the end times are fast approaching. They draw attention to passages in the Bible, particularly the book of Revelation, which vividly depict wars, conflicts, and the triumphant return of Jesus Christ. Moreover, the explicit mention of Israel in these prophecies has fueled the belief that the events unraveling in the region bear tremendous eschatological significance. However, it is crucial to acknowledge that interpretations of biblical prophecies can differ vastly, and a consensus among scholars and religious leaders is far from reached. While some discern connections between the Israel and Palestine conflict and biblical prophecies, others adopt a geopolitical standpoint, emphasizing the impact of historical, social, and political factors over religious interpretations. Ultimately, the question of the end times and its connection to the Israel and Palestine conflict in the Gaza Strip remains a deeply personal matter, contingent upon individual beliefs and interpretations. About the author. Introducing Dr. David K. Ewan, an ambassador professor at the prestigious Enterprise College, a renowned global institution that sets the benchmark for excellence. With his extensive travels and experiences across Asia, the Middle East, Europe, Russia, South America, the UK, and the United States, Dr. Ewan possesses an unmatched understanding of the dynamic events unfolding worldwide. Table of Contents. Chapter 1, Introduction, 6. Chapter 2, Israel, 10. Chapter 3, Gaza Strip, 25. Chapter 4, Hamas, 31. Chapter 5, Israeli-Palestinian Conflict, 39. Chapter 6, Early Wars AMP, Historical Context, 44. Chapter 7, October 7, 2023, Attack. Chapter 8, The Olivet Discourse, 61. Chapter 9, End Times. Chapter 1, Introduction. On October 7, 2023, the world was shocked when Hamas militants executed a daring and audacious surprise attack on Israel, launching a multifaceted assault by land, sea, and air, employing the unexpected use of paragliders. This meticulously coordinated operation sent shockwaves across the region and beyond, with far-reaching consequences for both sides of the conflict. The attack swiftly escalated into a grave crisis as Hamas militants unleashed a barrage of rockets targeting Israeli cities and population centers. The relentless hail of rockets caused widespread devastation and inflicted significant casualties, shaking the very foundations of Israeli society. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, found themselves thrust into a rapidly evolving and dangerous situation. They reported intense fighting taking place in at least a half-dozen locations across the country, with Hamas militants displaying an unprecedented level of tenacity and determination. The gravity of the situation was further underscored by chilling reports from residents in Israel, who described the terrifying ordeal of militants attempting to breach their homes. Panic and fear spread among the Israeli population as they grappled with the shocking reality of their homes being infiltrated by hostile forces. In response to the escalating crisis, the IDF officially declared that Israel was at war. They vowed to exact a huge price from the enemy, signaling a determined and resolute stance in the face of this unprovoked aggression. The world watched with bated breath as the Israeli military machine geared up to defend its sovereignty and its people against this brazen attack. The timing of this assault added a layer of historical significance to the unfolding events. It occurred on the 50th anniversary of the 1973 war, a pivotal conflict in which Arab states launched a surprise attack on Israel during Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. The eerie coincidence of another surprise attack on this solemn occasion stirred emotions and memories of past conflicts, further deepening the sense of national crisis in Israel. News of the attack spread like wildfire across the global media landscape. Prominent news outlets, including CNN, Yahoo News, Al Arabiya, Aram Online, The Wall Street Journal, and The New York Times, devoted extensive coverage to the unfolding crisis. The world stood on the precipice, anxiously awaiting developments in the rapidly evolving situation as diplomatic efforts and international reactions began to take shape in response to the crisis. In the wake of this shocking event, the international community was left grappling with the urgent need for a diplomatic resolution to avert further escalation and loss of life. The attack by Hamas militants on Israel served as a stark reminder of the volatility of the Middle East and the profound consequences that regional conflicts can have on global stability. Chapter 2. Israel. Israel is a nation situated in the heart of the Middle East, characterized by its unique geography and historical significance. It shares its borders with several countries, including Lebanon to the north, Syria to the northeast, Jordan to the east, and Egypt to the southwest. To the west, Israel is blessed with a stunning Mediterranean coastline, making it a nation of diverse landscapes. The historical roots of Israel extend deep into antiquity, encompassing a region known by various names over the centuries, including Canaan, Palestine, and the Holy Land. Today, it serves as the geographical anchor for the modern state of Israel. The history of Israel can be traced back to the Iron Age, a period when the ancient kingdoms of Israel and Judah were established. These kingdoms hold pivotal significance in the narratives of the Jewish and Samaritan peoples. According to the Hebrew Bible, these entities were preceded by a single kingdom ruled by legendary figures such as Saul, David, and Solomon, who is credited with the construction of the First Temple. Archaeological debates continue to swirl around the existence and size of this united monarchy, with some scholars supporting the biblical accounts, while others maintain that it may have been smaller in scale. The 19th century brought about a transformative period in the history of Israel as Zionist movements gained momentum, ultimately setting the stage for a series of pivotal events that would shape the region's destiny. At its core, Zionism was a movement with a profound vision to establish a homeland for Jewish people in the territory of Ottoman-controlled Palestine. This aspiration was rooted in a deep historical and religious connection to the land, and it gained traction as Jewish communities worldwide began to rally behind this cause. The realization of the long-held Zionist dream reached its pinnacle in the year 1948 when the modern State of Israel was officially established. This momentous occasion in history marked the culmination of generations of aspirations, hope, and determination. However, it was not a smooth journey from proclamation to permanence, as it ushered in immediate challenges, sparking what is now known as the First Arab-Israeli War. In 1948, Israel found itself in a precarious position, surrounded by neighboring Arab nations that vehemently opposed its establishment. The clash that ensued, the First Arab-Israeli War, was a defining moment in the nation's early history. Despite being outnumbered and under tremendous pressure, Israel emerged victorious in 1949. However, this victory did not come without profound consequences. The aftermath of the First Arab-Israeli War left behind one of the most enduring and contentious legacies: the displacement of a significant number of Palestinians, estimated to be around 750 individuals. This mass displacement marked the inception of the Palestinian refugee crisis, a humanitarian predicament that persists to this day, serving as a pivotal issue at the core of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Moreover, the territorial landscape underwent a transformation as a result of this conflict, leading to the division into three distinct parts: the State of Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. Though this division was initially intended to pave the way for conflict resolution, it paradoxically sowed the seeds of tension and strife between Israelis and Palestinians, culminating in decades of conflict. The partitioning of territory, coupled with the displacement of Palestinians, gave birth to a multifaceted and deeply entrenched conflict that has persisted through generations. The unresolved matters of borders, sovereignty, and the rights of both Israelis and Palestinians have perpetuated a cycle of tension, conflict, and negotiations that continues to exert a profound influence on the geopolitical landscape of the region. In the subsequent years, Israel's relationship with Palestine was marked by turbulence and upheaval. Two significant Palestinian uprisings, known as intifadas, seized global attention. The Second Intifada, in particular, which erupted in the early 2000s, had a profound impact on the Israeli-Palestinian relationship, dismantling the optimism of the peace process that characterized the 1990s and ushering in a new era of hostility and violence. Notwithstanding these challenges, Israel has evolved into a thriving democratic nation with a diverse population exceeding 9 million people. This mosaic of the population encompasses Jews, Arabs, Druze, and various other ethnic and religious groups. Remarkably, Israel now houses approximately 43% of the world's Jewish population, underscoring its significance as a homeland for Jewish people. In a significant stride towards regional stability, 1979 bore witness to a historic moment when Israel and Egypt inked the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty, a diplomatic breakthrough stemming from the Camp David Accords. This treaty played a pivotal role in upholding a semblance of peace and stability in the tumultuous Middle East. In summary, the history of Israel is a complex and intricate tapestry woven together by threads of ancient civilizations, religious beliefs, and modern-day politics. It is a narrative of resilience and adaptation, marked by challenges and opportunities. While grappling with a turbulent past, Israel has forged ahead, emerging as a focal point of global attention and symbolizing unwavering determination to overcome adversity while preserving a deep and diverse historical heritage. Israel's past is like a puzzle made up of many pieces. It includes stories from the ancient world, like the times of the Bible, and the traditions of Judaism, one of the world's oldest religions. But it's also influenced by what's happening right now in the world, like conflicts and diplomacy in the Middle East. Despite all the challenges, Israel keeps moving forward. It's like a lighthouse, always guiding global attention. It represents the idea that even in the face of difficulties, determination can make a difference. So, as Israel continues its journey, it remains an important symbol of resilience and strength for the world to see. Chapter Palestine. Palestine, a region in the heart of the Middle East, has been a focal point of one of the most protracted and intricate conflicts in contemporary history. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, which has spanned several decades, revolves around fundamental issues such as land, self-determination, and competing historical narratives. Geographically, Palestine stretches between the Mediterranean Sea and the Jordan River and encompasses parts of modern-day Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. At the core of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict lies the question of land. Both Israelis and Palestinians have deep historical and emotional ties to the territory. For Israelis, it is the historic homeland of the Jewish people, dating back thousands of years. They point to ancient Jewish kingdoms and their connections to the land as the foundation of their claim. In contrast, Palestinians view the same territory as their ancestral homeland, where their families have lived for generations. This contention over land has led to competing nationalistic aspirations and territorial disputes. Self-determination is another critical aspect of the conflict. Both Israelis and Palestinians aspire to have their own independent and sovereign states. Israelis established the State of Israel in 1948, which they see as the realization of their national self-determination. Palestinians, on the other hand, seek a state of their own, often referred to as the State of Palestine, with East Jerusalem as its capital. The quest for self-determination has been a driving force behind many peace negotiations and diplomatic efforts. Historical narratives play a significant role in shaping the perspectives of both parties. Israelis emphasize their historical and religious connections to the land, including the biblical significance of places like Jerusalem. Palestinians, too, have a rich historical narrative that underscores their deep roots in the region and their connection to key historical events. These competing narratives often clash, fueling the emotional and ideological dimensions of the conflict. The geographical scope of the conflict includes three main areas: Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. Israel, as a sovereign state, has developed its own political, economic, and military institutions. The West Bank is a territory with a predominantly Palestinian population that is under Israeli military occupation, and it is subject to complex governance arrangements and security concerns. The Gaza Strip, also predominantly Palestinian, has faced a distinct set of challenges, including a blockade and political division between Palestinian factions. Efforts to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict have been ongoing for decades, with numerous peace plans, negotiations, and international initiatives. However, a lasting resolution has remained elusive, with multiple obstacles, including issues related to borders, refugees, the status of Jerusalem, and security concerns. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, often dubbed as one of the world's most intractable disputes, transcends its geographical boundaries and has emerged as a global concern with far-reaching implications. While it is fundamentally rooted in the struggle for land, identity, and self-determination in the heart of the Middle East, its complexities and deep-rooted grievances have the potential to destabilize the entire region and impact international diplomacy on a grand scale. At its core, this multifaceted conflict revolves around competing claims to historical and sacred lands, primarily Israel and the Palestinian territories. Both Israelis and Palestinians have legitimate historical and emotional attachments to the same land, making this dispute profoundly complex and deeply entrenched. Over the years, territorial disputes, refugees' right of return, security concerns, and the status of Jerusalem have all contributed to the persistent tensions and hostilities. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict's regional significance cannot be overstated. It has the potential to spill over into neighboring countries, exacerbating existing regional tensions and conflicts. The instability it generates poses a threat to the already fragile balance of power in the Middle East. Regional actors, both state and non-state, have sought to exploit this vulnerability, further complicating efforts to reach a peaceful resolution. Moreover, the conflict has a significant impact on international diplomacy. It has been a central issue in global politics for decades, with numerous international actors, including the United Nations, the United States, the European Union, and regional powers, actively involved in seeking a resolution. The conflict's intractability has strained diplomatic relations and triggered international debates over human rights, humanitarian aid, and the legitimacy of Israel's existence. It has also fueled anti-Israel sentiment in some parts of the world and contributed to regional instability. Despite the seemingly insurmountable challenges, there remains a collective hope for a peaceful resolution. The key to addressing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict lies in diplomacy, negotiation, and a shared commitment to finding a just and lasting solution. Various peace initiatives, such as the Oslo Accords and the Camp David Summit, have aimed at bringing the two parties to the negotiation table. These efforts underscore the international community's belief in the possibility of a peaceful coexistence between Israelis and Palestinians. Chapter 3: Gaza Strip. The Gaza Strip, a narrow coastal enclave on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean Sea, is a region of profound significance within the ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict. This densely populated territory shares its borders with Israel to the north and east, as well as with Egypt to the south. With a population of over 2 million Palestinians, the Gaza Strip's unique geopolitical and humanitarian challenges have made it a focal point of international attention. The history of the Gaza Strip's involvement in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is indeed intricate and marked by significant developments. It all began following the Six-Day War in 1967, when Israel gained control of the Gaza Strip, among other territories, in what came to be known as the Occupied Territories. This shift in control led to the establishment of Israeli settlements and the presence of Israeli military forces in the region, setting the stage for decades of tension and conflict. However, a pivotal moment occurred in 2005 when Israel executed a unilateral withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, a move officially termed the Gaza Disengagement Plan. The purpose of this withdrawal was to disentangle Israel from direct governance in the Gaza Strip and put an end to its settlements and military presence there. Following the Israeli withdrawal, the Gaza Strip has been under the governance of the Palestinian militant group known as Hamas. Hamas, which had won legislative elections in 2006, effectively assumed control over the territory, becoming its de facto governing authority. This political development introduced a complex set of challenges, not only for the residents of Gaza but also for the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Under Hamas rule, the Gaza Strip has faced a multitude of difficulties. It has experienced periods of isolation and blockade by Israel and Egypt, leading to economic hardship and limited access to essential goods and services. The control of Hamas, considered a terrorist organization by some countries, has further complicated international efforts to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The situation in the Gaza Strip has also had repercussions on the broader conflict. Ongoing hostilities between Hamas and Israel have resulted in periodic outbreaks of violence, including military clashes and rocket attacks. The issues of governance, security, and the well-being of Gaza's population continue to be central to the larger Israeli-Palestinian peace process. In summary, the history of the Gaza Strip within the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is marked by complexity and pivotal events. The Israeli withdrawal in 2005 and the subsequent rise of Hamas as the governing authority have introduced new dynamics into the conflict, creating challenges for both the residents of Gaza and the broader efforts to achieve a peaceful resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian dispute. The situation in the Gaza Strip has been marked by a combination of political, economic, and humanitarian difficulties. The territory has faced stringent border restrictions and a naval blockade imposed by Israel and Egypt, which have severely limited the flow of goods and people in and out of Gaza. This blockade has contributed to high levels of unemployment, poverty, and limited access to basic services for the population. Moreover, the Gaza Strip has experienced intermittent escalations of violence, including military conflicts between Hamas and Israel. These conflicts have resulted in loss of life, destruction of infrastructure, and ongoing insecurity for the residents of Gaza. The Gaza Strip's unique position within the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has made it a challenging and intractable issue in efforts to reach a comprehensive peace agreement. The political dynamics involving Hamas, security concerns, and the humanitarian crisis have added layers of complexity to the conflict. Efforts to address the situation in the Gaza Strip have included international mediation, humanitarian aid, and attempts to negotiate ceasefires. However, achieving a lasting resolution remains a formidable challenge. The Gaza Strip story is a testament to the enduring complexities of the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as well as the human toll it has exacted on the lives of its residents, who continue to grapple with the consequences of this ongoing struggle for self-determination and security. Chapter 4. Hamas. Hamas, officially known as the Islamic Resistance Movement, emerged onto the Palestinian political landscape in 1987 during the First Palestinian Intifada, or uprising, against Israeli occupation. Since its inception, Hamas has played a significant and complex role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, shaping the dynamics of the region in various ways. Hamas operates as both a political and militant organization, which makes it distinct from other Palestinian factions. It has a two-pronged approach: a military wing responsible for armed resistance and a social services wing that provides assistance to Palestinians in the form of education, healthcare, and welfare programs. This dual structure has allowed Hamas to garner support among Palestinians for its role in addressing the social and economic needs of the population, particularly in the Gaza Strip, where it has de facto control. However, Hamas is designated as a terrorist organization by several countries and entities, including Israel, the United States, and the European Union. This designation is primarily due to the group's use of violence and acts of terrorism as part of its resistance against Israeli occupation. Hamas has been responsible for numerous suicide bombings, rocket attacks, and other acts of violence that have resulted in civilian casualties on both sides of the conflict. At the core of Hamas's ideology are two central principles: the establishment of an Islamic State and the advocacy for the destruction of Israel. Hamas aims to create an Islamic State in historic Palestine, blending religious and ideological elements with a sense of Palestinian nationalism. The leadership of Hamas places a strong emphasis on Islam, not just as a religious belief, but also as a comprehensive framework for governance. One of the most contentious aspects of Hamas's ideology is its refusal to acknowledge the existence of the State of Israel and its stated objective of annihilating Israel. This particular stance has posed a significant obstacle to peace negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians. It directly contradicts the widely accepted international two-state solution, which envisions peaceful coexistence between Israel and a future Palestinian state. Hamas wields influence that extends well beyond its military and political activities. It has consistently played a prominent role in Palestinian politics, often in competition with the more secular Fatah movement, which is led by the Palestinian Authority. The division between the Gaza Strip, controlled by Hamas, and parts of the West Bank, controlled by Fatah, has further complicated efforts to establish a unified Palestinian government and to engage in meaningful negotiations for a lasting peace agreement with Israel. Hamas, the Palestinian political and military organization, plays a profoundly polarizing role in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, reflecting the complex and contentious nature of the decades-long struggle. The perspectives on Hamas are starkly divided, with some viewing it as a legitimate resistance movement fighting against Israeli occupation and working to address the needs of Palestinians, while others brand it as a terrorist organization that employs violence to pursue its political objectives, including the avowed goal of eradicating the State of Israel. From one perspective, Hamas is seen as a legitimate resistance movement by many Palestinians and sympathizers around the world. To these supporters, Hamas represents a form of resistance against what they perceive as Israeli oppression and occupation in Palestinian territories. They argue that the organization fills a void in providing essential services and support to Palestinians living in the areas under its control, such as the Gaza Strip. This includes social services, education, healthcare, and infrastructure development, which some believe have improved the lives of Palestinians. On the other hand, many governments and international organizations, including Israel, the United States, and the European Union, classify Hamas as a terrorist organization. This designation is based on the group's use of violence, including suicide bombings and rocket attacks targeting Israeli civilians. These actions have resulted in significant casualties and destruction. Critics argue that Hamas's tactics, such as launching rockets indiscriminately, disproportionately harm civilians and violate international humanitarian laws. Hamas's charter explicitly calls for the destruction of Israel, which further solidifies its reputation as a group that opposes the very existence of the Jewish state. This stance fuels concerns among Israeli officials and their supporters that any concessions or negotiations with Hamas may ultimately be in vain, as they doubt the organization's commitment to a peaceful coexistence. The presence and influence of Hamas in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict creates significant challenges for those seeking a peaceful resolution. Any comprehensive solution to the conflict must address the role and status of groups like Hamas, which continue to wield considerable power and influence in the Palestinian territories. Finding common ground between these polarized perspectives on Hamas remains an intricate and contentious aspect of the broader peace process. As the Israeli-Palestinian conflict persists, the question of how to engage with groups like Hamas remains a pressing and complex issue. It underscores the necessity for a nuanced and multifaceted approach to diplomacy, recognizing both the grievances of Palestinians and the security concerns of Israel, in the pursuit of a lasting and equitable solution to the long-standing conflict. Chapter 5: Israeli-Palestinian Conflict. The roots of the broader Israeli-Palestinian conflict can be traced back to the late 19th century, when Zionist movements began their mission to create a homeland for Jewish people in the region of Palestine, which was then under Ottoman control. This aspiration eventually led to the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, a momentous development that ignited the First Arab-Israeli War. This war had far-reaching consequences, including the displacement of an astounding 750 Palestinians, triggering a refugee crisis, and dividing the territory into three distinct regions: the State of Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip. In the decades that followed, this deeply ingrained dispute has been marked by a series of conflicts and uprisings, with two significant Palestinian uprisings referred to as intifadas holding a prominent place in history. The Second Intifada, which erupted in the early 2000s, left an enduring impact on Israeli-Palestinian relations. It brought the promising peace process of the 1990s to an abrupt halt and ushered in a new era characterized by heightened tensions and recurrent conflicts. The human toll of this prolonged conflict has been immense, with hundreds of thousands of Palestinians forced into displacement, many of whom became refugees as a result. On one side of the divide, the Palestinian people fervently aspire to establish their own independent state, at the very least, in a portion of historic Palestine. In contrast, Israel remains resolute in its commitment to its right to exist as a Jewish state, within secure and internationally recognized borders. This enduring conflict is marked by deeply held aspirations, competing narratives, and complex geopolitical dynamics. It remains a central issue in the Middle East, one that has defied easy resolution for decades. Finding a path to lasting peace in the region continues to be a pressing global challenge, as both Israelis and Palestinians grapple with the consequences of a dispute that has shaped their lives and the world's political landscape. Discovering a lasting resolution to this intricate and deeply entrenched conflict stands as a formidable challenge, a task that weighs heavily not only on the parties directly involved but also on the broader international community. The quest for peace and reconciliation remains an enduring imperative in the region, for the legacy of this enduring and multifaceted conflict continues to exert a profound influence on the lives and aspirations of those who call the region home. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a knot of historical grievances, territorial disputes, and divergent aspirations. It has engendered generations of suffering, displacement, and unfulfilled dreams. Finding a way to untangle this knot, to create a path where both Israelis and Palestinians can coexist in peace and security, is a challenge that has defied resolution for decades. The international community has, over the years, made various efforts to mediate and facilitate negotiations between the parties, seeking common ground and a peaceful coexistence. These efforts, while at times showing promise, have often encountered obstacles and setbacks. Nevertheless, the pursuit of a peaceful resolution remains a top priority for the global community, rooted in the belief that a just and lasting peace is attainable and essential for regional stability. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is not merely a regional issue. It resonates globally, affecting international relations, security dynamics, and the humanitarian situation. As such, it commands attention and dedication from nations around the world. The continued pursuit of peace and reconciliation reflects the shared commitment to alleviating the suffering of those affected by the conflict and to realizing the vision of a stable, prosperous, and peaceful region. Chapter 6: Early Wars Historical Context. The Yom Kippur War, also known as the October War or the Ramadan War, holds a significant place in the complex history of the Arab-Israeli conflict. This conflict, which unfolded over a span of 3 weeks in 1973, had profound consequences for the Middle East and the global political landscape. The war commenced on October 6, 1973, when a coalition of Arab states, primarily led by Egypt and Syria, launched a surprise attack against Israel. The date chosen for the attack was of particular significance, as it coincided with Yom Kippur, the holiest day in Judaism. This attack took place during the 10th day of the Islamic holy month of Ramadan in that year, adding a layer of religious symbolism to the conflict. The Yom Kippur War was a watershed moment because it marked a crucial shift in the dynamics of the Arab-Israeli conflict. Unlike previous wars, where Israel had enjoyed the element of surprise, this time the Arab coalition managed to catch Israel off guard. The conflict resulted in heavy casualties on both sides and extensive damage to military equipment and infrastructure. One of the most noteworthy aspects of this war was the involvement of two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Both nations initiated massive resupply efforts to their respective allies during the conflict. This led to a tense confrontation between the two nuclear-armed superpowers, highlighting the global implications of the regional conflict. In the end, Israel emerged as the military victor, successfully repelling the Arab coalition's surprise attack. Israel managed to regain some of the territory it had lost in the Six-Day War of 1967. However, the war exacted a heavy toll, leaving scars on all parties involved. The Yom Kippur War, also known as the October War or the 1973 War, left an indelible mark on Israel's collective memory, serving as a poignant reminder of the hubris that had followed their stunning victory in the 1967 Six-Day War. This conflict, which had initially bolstered Israel's confidence and territorial gains, set the stage for a series of events that culminated in their setbacks in 1973. The Six-Day War in 1967 had been a defining moment in Israel's history, as the Israeli Defense Forces (IDF) achieved a remarkable victory over neighboring Arab states, capturing significant territories in the process. The euphoria that followed this decisive triumph created a sense of invincibility among many Israelis. The nation's newfound territory, including the West Bank, East Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, and the Sinai Peninsula, seemed to signal a new era of security and expansion. However, this hubris and a prevailing sentiment of complacency within the Israeli leadership played a pivotal role in the events that unfolded in the Yom Kippur War. The surprise attack launched by Egyptian and Syrian forces on October 6, 1973, during the Jewish holy day of Yom Kippur, caught Israel off guard. The initial setbacks and heavy casualties suffered by Israeli forces during the early days of the war were a painful shock to a nation that had become accustomed to military success. The Yom Kippur War served as a humbling experience for Israel, forcing them to reevaluate their strategic assumptions and military preparedness. It was a stark reminder that despite their earlier triumphs, the region remained fraught with danger and uncertainty. Moreover, the war had far-reaching implications beyond Israel's borders. It marked a turning point for some Arab states, prompting them to reconsider their stance on the Palestinian cause in light of their own national interests. The stunning performance of Arab forces in the early days of the conflict, particularly the Egyptian army's crossing of the Suez Canal and the Syrian advance into the Golan Heights, demonstrated a newfound determination and military capability among Arab nations. This shift in the dynamics of the Arab-Israeli conflict compelled some Arab states to seek diplomatic solutions and consider a more moderate approach. The Yom Kippur War led to efforts such as the Camp David Accords in 1978, which resulted in a peace treaty between Israel and Egypt, signed in 1979. This treaty significantly reshaped the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East and served as a model for diplomatic engagement in the region. the Camp David Accords of 1978, and the subsequent Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty of 1979 stand as historic milestones that were directly influenced by the Yom Kippur War of 1973. These pivotal agreements not only played a crucial role in reshaping the dynamics of the Middle East, but also marked a profound shift in the approach of Arab states toward the Palestinian cause. The Camp David Accords, brokered by U.S. President Jimmy Carter, brought together Israel, Prime Minister Menachem Begin and Egyptian President Anwar Sadat for intensive negotiations at the Camp David Presidential Retreat in Maryland, USA, in September 1978. These negotiations were a direct response to the shockwaves created by the Yom Kippur War, a conflict that had forced both sides to reconsider their entrenched positions and explore avenues for peace. The Camp David Accords, signed in 1978, laid out a groundbreaking framework for addressing the long-standing Israeli-Arab conflict that had plagued the Middle East for decades. This historic agreement established a roadmap for a comprehensive peace settlement in the region, with a primary focus on resolving the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and addressing the question of Palestinian self-determination. One of the most pivotal elements of the Camp David Accords was Israel's commitment to withdraw its military forces and civilian settlements from the Sinai Peninsula, a strategically vital region captured during the Six-Day War of 1967. This withdrawal was a significant step towards de-escalating tensions in the Middle East and opening the door to lasting peace. In an unprecedented and courageous move, Egypt, under the leadership of President Anwar Sadat, agreed to normalize diplomatic and economic relations with Israel. This was a monumental shift in regional dynamics, as it marked the first instance of an Arab nation officially recognizing the existence of the State of Israel. Egypt's willingness to engage in dialogue and negotiation, Then conflict set a groundbreaking precedent for peaceful resolution in the region. The Camp David Accords went beyond mere declarations of intent. They included detailed security arrangements that were meticulously designed to ensure a lasting peace between Egypt and Israel. These arrangements encompass limitations on military forces in the Sinai Peninsula, designed to prevent any potential military escalation in the future. Additionally, mechanisms for resolving disputes through peaceful means were established, emphasizing the importance of diplomacy and dialogue in resolving conflicts. Following the successful negotiations at Camp David, the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty was formally signed in Washington, D.C., on March 26, 1979. This treaty was a momentous milestone in the region's history, as it solidified the normalization of relations between Egypt and Israel. Most significantly, it led to the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Sinai Peninsula. This withdrawal was not just a symbolic gesture but a tangible demonstration of the commitment to peace, signifying the end of decades of animosity and hostility between the two nations. The Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty heralded a new era of peaceful coexistence in the Middle East. It was a testament to the power of diplomacy, dialogue, and compromise in resolving even the most protracted and seemingly intractable conflicts. While challenges and complexities in the region persist, the Camp David Accords and the subsequent treaty between Egypt and Israel remain a historic example of how nations can choose the path of peace and cooperation over the cycle of conflict and violence. Beyond its bilateral implications, the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty held broader implications for the Middle East. It signaled a shift in the approach of Arab states toward the Palestinian cause. Egypt's decision to prioritize its own national interests and security concerns over the Palestinian issue was a pragmatic choice that resonated with other Arab nations. It set a precedent for diplomatic engagement as an alternative to armed conflict in addressing regional disputes. In summary, the Camp David Accords of 1978 and the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty of 1979 emerged as direct outcomes of the Yom Kippur War, representing critical steps toward peace in the Middle East. These agreements not only normalized relations between Egypt and Israel but also marked a significant transformation in the approach of certain Arab states to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They laid the groundwork for diplomatic solutions and initiated a shift away from confrontation, contributing to the complex tapestry of the region's history. The war also had profound psychological impacts. It inflicted a national trauma on Israel, leading to a recognition that the overwhelming victory of 1967 had created a sense of hubris that contributed to the setbacks of 1973. In the short term, the Yom Kippur War empowered the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, and the Palestinian National Movement. For the Arab world, the war was a complex mix of humiliation from the 1967 defeat and vindication through early successes in 1973. It underscored the need for a more pragmatic approach among some Arab states, prompting them to distinguish between their own national interests and their commitment to the Palestinian cause. Chapter 7, October 7, 2023. Attack. On Saturday, October 7, 2023, a shocking and unexpected event unfolded in the Middle East when Gaza militants launched a surprise attack on Israel. This attack was characterized by its scale and audacity, as militants fired thousands of rockets and infiltrated Israeli territory by land, sea, and air using paragliders. The assault sent shockwaves through the region and the international community. The initial consequences of this attack were severe, resulting in at least 40 deaths and nearly 800 injuries at the onset of the conflict. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, reported that its troops were engaged in combat in at least half a dozen locations, and some residents in Israel reported that militants were attempting to break into their homes. In a disturbing development, Hamas, the militant group governing Gaza, claimed to have captured several Israeli soldiers near the border, intensifying the crisis. Israel's response to the attack was swift and decisive. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that Israel was now at war and that its forces aimed to exact a huge price from the enemy. In response, Israel launched airstrikes on Gaza, setting the stage for a potentially protracted and devastating conflict. The timing of this attack was notable, occurring on the 50th anniversary of the 1973 Yom Kippur War, a pivotal moment in the Arab-Israeli conflict. This historical context added further complexity to an already tense situation. The Yom Kippur War had reshaped the dynamics of the conflict and had significant implications for U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East. While the immediate impact of the Yom Kippur War did not bring an end to hostilities, it did eventually lead to the Camp David Accords of 1978 and the Egypt-Israel Peace Treaty of 1979, representing important steps toward regional peace. The Yom Kippur War had also left a lasting imprint on Israel's collective memory. It served as a painful reminder of the hubris that followed their massive victory in the 1967 Six-Day War, which had contributed to their setbacks in 1973. Moreover, the Yom Kippur War marked a turning point for some Arab states, prompting them to reconsider their stance on the Palestinian cause in light of their own national interests. In the short term, the October 2023 attack seemed to empower Palestinian groups, including the Palestinian Liberation Organization, PLO, and the broader Palestinian National Movement. The conflict's early successes for the militants resonated in the Arab world, where humiliation from the lopsided defeat of the Egyptian-Syrian-Jordanian alliance in 1967 still lingered. Chapter 8. The Olivet Discourse. The Olivet Discourse holds a significant place in Christian theology as it refers to a crucial passage within the New Testament of the Bible. This discourse is prominently featured in the Synoptic Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and it derives its name from the location where Jesus delivered these profound teachings, the Mount of Olives, also known as the Mount Olivet. In the Olivet Discourse, Jesus is portrayed as a prophetic figure, foretelling a series of future events. Among these predictions, one of the most prominent is the prophecy of the impending destruction of the Jewish temple in Jerusalem. He also expounds on the signs that would precede his second coming, creating an eschatological framework. Eschatology, the study of end times, forms a central theme within this discourse, and it provides insights into the culmination of history and the divine plan. Furthermore, the Olivet Discourse contains a wealth of apocalyptic themes, reflecting the notion of divine revelation and unveiling of hidden truths. Within these teachings, there are stern warnings about the rise of false messiahs, the eruption of conflicts and wars, and the persecutions that believers would inevitably encounter. This prophetic discourse serves as a guidepost for Christians, offering both cautionary advice and hope in the face of tumultuous times. The Olivet Discourse, found in the Synoptic Gospels of Matthew 24:25, Mark 13, and Luke 21, stands as a critical and illuminating passage in the New Testament. It holds a central place in the study of Jesus' teachings, particularly for those who seek to gain insight into his eschatological teachings concerning the culmination of human history and the establishment of the kingdom of God. This discourse occurs within the context of Jesus' final days in Jerusalem, just before his crucifixion. It takes place on the Mount of Olives, overlooking the magnificent temple in Jerusalem, a setting of immense significance in the Jewish religious and historical narrative. As Jesus sits with his disciples, they inquire about the future, specifically asking him about the signs of the end times and the coming of the kingdom of God. In response, Jesus embarks on a profound and intricate exposition, revealing deep insights into the divine plan for the culmination of human history. In the Olivet Discourse, Jesus imparts a comprehensive framework for comprehending the end times, offering profound insights into the signs and events that will herald his return. He foretells a series of impactful occurrences such as wars, famines, earthquakes, the rise of false messiahs, and tribulations that serve as harbingers, akin to the birth pains of a new era. This discourse isn't merely a matter-of-fact account. Rather, it employs vivid and symbolic language, reminiscent of the prophetic style found in the Old Testament. Through this evocative imagery, Jesus paints a dramatic tableau of both cosmic and earthly upheavals, conveying the immense gravity of the events that will attend the establishment of the kingdom of God. Furthermore, Jesus employs parables and illustrative stories to impart moral and ethical lessons that maintain their relevance across time and history. These teachings underscore the crucial values of readiness, faithfulness, and vigilance, particularly in the face of an uncertain future. A recurring motif throughout the discourse centers on the imperative of watchfulness and preparedness for his disciples. Jesus cautions against complacency and urges his followers to remain spiritually alert. He emphasizes that the precise timing of these events remains a divine mystery known only to God. Ultimately, the Olivet Discourse reaches its climax in a vivid portrayal of the final judgment. In this momentous scene, Jesus delineates the separation of the righteous from the wicked, underlining the ethical dimensions inherent in eschatological expectations. Over the course of history, the Olivet Discourse has been a focal point of extensive debate and scholarly inquiry. Theological minds from various Christian traditions have delved into its depths, yielding a diverse array of interpretations and eschatological beliefs, further enriching its enduring relevance in the realm of religious study and contemplation. Chapter 9. End Times. In Ezekiel 38, a prophetic passage of the Old Testament, a coalition of nations is foretold to gather and launch an invasion against Israel. At the forefront of this alliance stands Gog, who is depicted as the leader, and Magog, the land from which he hails. These two figures are often interpreted symbolically, representing hostile forces that will play a significant role in the eschatological scenario. The nations involved in this coalition, as delineated in Ezekiel 38, include Gog, Magog, Meshech, Tubal, Persia, Cush, Put, Gomer, and Beth Togarmah. While the exact modern counterparts of these nations are open to interpretation, this passage is commonly associated with the end times due to its portrayal of a future event where these nations will unite to mount an attack on Israel. Ezekiel 38 concludes with a powerful message from God himself, emphasizing his glory and purpose in these events. The divine intervention described in this prophecy is intended to showcase God's unmatched power and sovereignty to the entire world. The Jubilee cycle, a central concept in the Hebrew calendar, is a year cycle that finds its origins in the instructions laid out in Leviticus. It forms an integral part of the religious and agricultural life of ancient Israel. The intricate timing of the Jubilee cycle is intricately tied to the Hebrew calendar, which diverges from the commonly used Gregorian calendar. This Hebrew calendar is lunar-based and employs the 19-year Metonic cycle to harmonize its lunar months with the solar year, ensuring precision in marking significant events and religious observances. While historical evidence surrounding the Jubilee cycle remains a subject of controversy among scholars and historians, there are intriguing hints that suggest its observance within early Israelite society. The Jubilee cycle held immense importance in the life of ancient Israel, serving as a period of profound significance, characterized by the themes of release and restoration. In particular, during the Jubilee year, land that had changed hands reverted to its original owner, allowing families to regain their ancestral properties. This concept of restoration extended beyond land, encompassing freedom for those who had become indentured servants, and the cancellation of debts. It was, in essence, a year of renewal and liberation, underlining the principles of justice and compassion in Israelite society. Looking ahead to the contemporary context, the year 2023 holds a special place within the Hebrew calendar as a Jubilee year. Notably, it marks the commencement of the 70th Jubilee cycle, which began on Yom Kippur in 2023, and is set to conclude on Rosh Hashanah in 2024. This milestone serves as a reminder of the enduring significance of the Jubilee cycle, resonating with the timeless themes of release and restoration that have persisted throughout Jewish history. Matthew 24:6, a verse from the New Testament, holds significant theological and eschatological importance, as it has been interpreted by various individuals and groups as a potential sign of the end times. This verse is part of a larger discourse delivered by Jesus, often referred to as the Olivet Discourse. Within this passage, Jesus imparts crucial wisdom to his disciples concerning the future and the signs that will precede his return. The verse, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come," underscores the notion that tumultuous events, including wars and their associated rumors, will be pervasive in the lead-up to a climactic moment in human history. This verse's interpretation hinges on understanding both its immediate context within the Olivet Discourse and its broader theological implications. The Olivet Discourse unfolds as Jesus and his disciples are perched on the Mount of Olives, overlooking Jerusalem. His disciples privately approach him, seeking insight into the signs that will signal the culmination of time and his impending return. It is important to recognize that the disciples' inquiries reflect a profound curiosity about the future and a desire to comprehend the divine plan. Jesus begins his response with a warning, advising his disciples not to be unduly alarmed or shaken by the occurrences of wars and the whispers of impending conflicts. He acknowledges the inevitability of such distressing events. The phrasing, "such things must happen," emphasizes that these tumultuous circumstances are a part of the world's fallen nature and human history itself. Yet, what makes this verse particularly intriguing is the second part. "But the end is still to come." This phrase implies that while these events are indeed significant and distressing, they do not signal an immediate end of the world. Instead, they are part of a broader narrative leading up to a more profound and ultimate fulfillment of God's divine plan. In Matthew 24:6, Jesus offers a prophetic insight into a tumultuous period marked by turmoil and conflict. This upheaval manifests in two distinct ways: through actual wars, where nations engage in armed struggles, and through the dissemination of news or rumors that foretell impending conflicts. These predictions, as articulated by Jesus, hold significant importance as they serve as critical signs characterizing the period leading up to what is commonly referred to as the end times. In the face of these potentially unsettling signs, Jesus offers his disciples a profound piece of guidance. He advises them against succumbing to excessive alarm or anxiety. While the events he describes are undoubtedly significant and carry immense weight in the grand tapestry of human history, they do not, in themselves, serve as indicators of an immediate apocalypse or the abrupt conclusion of the world as they know it. Instead, Jesus portrays them as integral components within a more extensive sequence of events that must naturally unfold before the ultimate culmination of all things. Jesus subtly implies that these turbulent occurrences are not arbitrary or haphazard. Rather, they are purposeful and intricately woven into the divine plan for humanity. They are not mere chance events, but rather integral elements of the overarching narrative of human history, orchestrated by a higher divine intelligence. In essence, these signs are part of God's grand design, playing a pivotal role in the unfolding drama of creation. This perspective provided by Jesus encourages his disciples, and by extension, all believers to approach these times of turmoil and uncertainty with a measured and steadfast faith. It underscores the idea that while the world may appear to be in upheaval, there is a larger divine purpose at play. It invites individuals to trust in the wisdom and providence of God, recognizing that even in times of apparent chaos, there exists a greater narrative that is steadily unfolding towards its appointed conclusion. Basically, Matthew 24:6 conveys a profound message of faith, resilience, and trust in God's overarching plan. It reminds us that amidst the storms of life, there is a divine purpose guiding the course of history. And these turbulent events are part of a larger story yet to be fully revealed, a story in which faith and steadfastness are integral virtues for those who seek to understand and navigate the path towards the ultimate fulfillment of God's plan. Cover art by Duncan Kidd on July 22, 2019. https The Unsplash. Com photos CJ BKS Kmonek. Israel and Palestine. The End Times and the Future of Israel with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. By Dr. David K. Ewan. Copyright 2023 by Dr. David K. Ewan. All rights reserved. Introducing Dr. David K. Ewan, an ambassador professor at the prestigious Enterprise College, a renowned global institution that sets the benchmark for excellence. With his extensive travels and experiences across Asia, the Middle East, Europe, Russia, South America, the UK, and the United States, Dr. Ewan possesses an unmatched understanding of the dynamic events unfolding worldwide,